morning, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, I wanted to share with you some of my numbers from renting versus buying. So what we spent when we were renting a house in Foz do Areia and now how much we spend on our house living in Caldas. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Josie. I currently live in the Silver Coast of Portugal along with my family of 5. We recently, well, I guess not recently, we moved here almost a year ago now, and this channel is dedicated to helping you with your move to the Silver Coast area. All right, so let's get started. If you guys haven't watched my last video or a previous video where I gave you a tour of my rental house in Foz do Areia. It's not mine, I rented it, but I gave you guys a complete tour of the 3-bedroom townhouse that we rented in Foz do Areia. So it was really close to the town center as well as the beach. We were probably about a 10, maybe a 15-minute walk to the beach and a quick couple minutes at most to the town center. So in that house, we had a lease for 8 months. It was starting in September and ended in June. We did have an option to renew, but initially our goals was to live there until June and then possibly live in France for the summer and then renew our lease for September to June. So in the eyes of the landlord, it was the perfect renter almost because I have a lot of landlords here like to rent out their home for short term in the summer, and then we just want it really for the school year. But our plans changed. So to give you an idea of that townhouse that we rented, it was fully furnished, so it had everything that you could possibly need. All your furniture was there, all the kitchen equipment was there. We did buy a few, some furniture that we needed for the kids, like a dresser and other stuff. But for the most part, everything was fully furnished. So let's break it down. The rent there was 1,250 euros, which included an allocated amount of 100 euros towards utilities. We did have to pay excess utilities based upon usage, and that roughly ranged from 100 to 120 euros a month extra. There was 1 month, I want to say it was October, it was colder, and we weren't used to it. The house was damp as well, living by the ocean. So we got a bill, surprisingly, of like 400 euros. Maybe it was a little bit more than 400 euros because we did run the heat, which was gas. And surprisingly, we didn't really run it that much. We ran it for maybe a couple of hours here and there a day. So I would say no more than like 2 hours a day. Most of the time we didn't run it, but there were days that we really needed it because we had to wear jackets. It was that cold. So when we got that bill of 400 euros, we realized we had to change what we were doing, and we ended up buying a wood from a local wood person that would deliver. Luckily, they did have a fireplace in that unit or the townhouse, so we ended up using that quite a bit. We were burning wood every single day. Most of the time, we were starting it around like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, up until we went to bed, and then we would stop it, and then the residual heat would help to heat the house up. But the fireplace is only in the living room, so we of course slept upstairs, and we did sometimes have to put the gas heat on upstairs to keep us warm. But since we had to purchase wood, we would get I think it was a ton of wood. I'm not quite sure of how much wood we got, but we got enough for 1 month. And to have it delivered and the wood guy would pile it in our garage too, it would be 120 euros each time. So we ended up getting wood 3 times during our stay there. So that's about 360 euros that we spent. And then we also had it cleaned, our house cleaned. So I know this is an optional thing, but for us, I enjoy having a cleaner come in to help me clean the house. And we had a cleaner come twice a month. So we would spend anywhere from 24 to 32 euros because she did charge about 8 euros an hour. So give or take, it just depends on the time and what I needed them to help me with. So in the grand total of 1 month of rent and all the utilities and expenses, I was spending about 1,754 euros for the rent, the utilities, the wood, for winter time, and the cleaning, so twice a month. So I'm gonna give you the most expensive amount because obviously when it's not winter time, you won't need the wood and the utilities probably won't be as high. But I would say on a regular month when it's not winter time, it's usually about 100 and 120 of excess utility payments. So let's go into owning a house. Now that I've owned this house since December, which we really didn't move in until March, I will give you how much we spend from like March and April. About May hasn't finished yet, so I don't really know how much our May bills are gonna be. But to give an idea from March and April, I took an average of both to give you the numbers that I have. So our mortgage is 1,350 euros. Now, given we did choose a 20-year term mortgage loan term, and we did put a hefty amount down as well. We put about 40% down payment on this house. So of course that could change for you if you wanted a longer loan. For us, we could have gotten a loan, I think 40 years. We could have gotten a 40-year loan. We opted to choose a 20-year loan because we wanted to not have to have any mortgage by the time the children are finished with college. By the time that the children are done with college, we wanted to not have any expenses as well. So that was our goal. So you could choose a 20, a 30, or plus year loan. It just really depends on how old you are. I believe they only give you loans up into the age of 75. So it really does change. It does range with based upon how old you are, and also how much you put down too. Our utilities. Now this was a shocker for me when we first got our utilities. I thought it was a mistake because remember, I have a 5-bedroom plus 1 house. This house here is probably 2 to 3 times the size of our townhouse back in Foz. For the winter time, we didn't really have to put the heat on here. We actually didn't have heat. This house has a fireplace, but it doesn't have central heat. It had pre-installation, but we did get the split wall units installed, but that was later on. So let me break down our utilities. So for water, we spend 20 euros a month on water. And don't kill me, but I am not really conservative with water. We do wash, our dishes regularly. We use the dishwasher. We do laundry. Obviously, with 5 people, you can't really not do laundry. But we do, I would say, quite a few loads a week because, our children are doing a lot of activities and we change clothes often. So we do run the washer and dryer quite often. We do have a dryer as well. So how much do we spend on electricity and gas? Because it is in the same bill. We spend a whopping 60 euros a month on electricity and gas. And that was a big shocker to me because as you know, we were paying, if you think about it, about 200, 220 euros a month for our smaller townhouse in Foz do Areia. So that was a shock to me. And then cable and internet. So we have our cable internet bundled together with, I don't remember who we have it with. I'll try putting it below once I remember. But we spend 30 euros. So all in all, for our utilities, I spend, how much is that? 110 euros for everything for a much larger house than the rental house. So that just gives you an idea of if you have a well-insulated house, it does make a huge, huge difference. So cleaning here, I do have this house cleaned, which is twice a month, and I spend 48 euros each time. The property tax here. So as you may know, we do have to pay property tax on a house that you own. Back in the States, which was crazy, and I might do a comparison with my house back in the States to my house currently, but the property tax here, you can pay twice a year or you can pay once a year. So it really depends. And we spend 500 euros a year on property tax. We do have to get insurance on this house as well. So we spend 500 euros a year on insurance. And we didn't get the bottom of the line insurance too. We did get insurance to cover all of our belongings in this house. So the grand total of this house, of owning this house, is 1,638 euros. So when you look at these numbers, you think, wow, that is crazy. So let's just say I took out the 100 euros for the wood in the house for Foz do Relo, right? Because I did add the wood in there. Then I would be spending 1,654 euros. So it actually is almost a break even if you were to buy a house and if you were to rent a house. So at the end of the day, it just really depends on you. If you want to own a house, if you want to rent a house, I can give you my reasons why I think buying a house may be better, because obviously the numbers are better. If you're looking to live in an area that you love, it just makes sense to buy. Because if I were to have chosen a 30-year plus mortgage, I think I was quoted under 1,000 euros a month. And of course, it really does depend on how much you want to put down as well. I could have put less down, could have had a longer term. It just really, it gives you a little more flexibility if you want a lower monthly payment or not, you know. But for renting, everyone always recommends that you rent, and I don't disagree, because if you don't know Portugal really well and you're just kind of basing your first year on a couple of visits or not even any visits, because I know a lot of people move to Portugal without even doing a scouting trip, which I was going to do too, so I can't blame you guys. It makes sense to rent. You want to make sure you love the area. You want to make sure that you like where you're going to be for the first year to then look into purchasing. Now, it's really, again, up to you. I know for sure if we had purchased that house that we rented in Foz do Relo, like if that was an option, I would have really been upset, because though I love the house in Foz do Relo, I love the location, it just would not have suited our family long term. That just goes to show you have to choose what's best for your family. I do, again, agree that renting makes sense for the first year, but if you know you're gonna love somewhere long term, it just makes sense to purchase. Some downfalls, let's say some cons to purchasing a house, but this could be for rentals. Cons with purchasing a house, you're gonna have to furnish everything. So you're gonna have to add that to your budget. We already had an idea of how much it was going to be initially to buy our furniture and everything, but all the little stuff you always forget about, all this stuff in your kitchen. We've been to IKEA one too many times because we always forget something and we have to go there to buy more stuff. All the arts that all the art pictures and paintings that you may want. For us, we wanted more of a minimalist house, so we don't have that many picture frames everywhere. So really, it just really, again, depends on how much you want to be invested in your house. I know people that plan on renting for a long time, for an unforeseeable amount in the future, just because they want to be able to have the flexibility of leaving whenever they wanted to. So it just really, again, depends on what your goals are when you move to Portugal. Are you planning on being here for the next couple of years? Are you planning on being here indefinitely? Do you just want to make this a couple years? Like, do you want to travel the world? Do you even have kids? You know, if we didn't have kids, we probably would have, one, for sure, chosen a much smaller house, and two, we may have been open to the idea of renting long term, because, you know, if it was just my husband and I, maybe we would want to travel more. Maybe we would only want to make Portugal a 6-month stay and live somewhere else 6 months. I don't know. So it just really boils down to, where do you see yourself in 1 year, in 2 years, in 10 years, and so forth. And that will kind of give you a better idea as far as renting or owning. Another thing to keep in mind too, when it's renting, the rent will probably increase. You know, I'm pretty sure that the townhouse that we rented, the price has increased since our stay there. So you just have to bear that in mind. I know that you can get a lease agreement where you can, negotiate your lease where you can keep your rent stable for X amount of years. That's an option. I know some people that have done that too. Another thing too with renting, which I haven't told you guys, but when we left our rental, we got slapped with a pretty, and it could have been argued, I'm sure, our landlord said that the dryer was broken, when in fact it did work, but the screen, there was a malfunction with the screen, even though the dryer was working. So I had reached out to a local person that fixes washing machines. They actually own a electronic business here, and they told me that dryer is 8 years old and that the part is no longer available, or if it is available, it would take months to find. So the landlord and we had to negotiate, and we ended up having to buy them a brand new dryer. So those are little things that will happen, I'm sure. So you just have to keep that in mind, but that would happen back in the States too. So it's just something that you just have to keep in mind when you're renting a house. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and leave in the comment section if you think you are planning on renting or owning. It would be really interesting to see how many of you guys are planning on doing either one. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. All right, ciao.